So if you're a game artist or image editor and you're looking for a node-based image editing tool that you can use for your game textures, your game images, or image editing, which would allow you work procedurally with tons of nodes that can allow you work non-destructively and create variations automatically without ruining all of your edits, then you're in luck, as askBrush is an interesting tool that is coming which would allow you to do all of that. And askBrush is made available by Albert Emboss, who is a wonderful creator that has made all of these with native C++. And the interesting thing is this is currently available for both Windows and Mac. This is currently available for free to use and no account is needed for you to work with it. At this point, this is in beta, and for you to actually have this, you need to go to his X account and request for the beta. So just in case you like to work with this might be a wonderful time for you to explore it. And today we're simply going to take a look at how this tool works and some of the cool features that you can now have access to, as this is super useful for both game developers, illustrators, designers, texture artists, and concept artists. Additionally, this also comes with a set of AI features that would definitely make your life easy. And with that said, let's dive right into the tool and take a look at how it works. So with askBrush open up right here, you can tell that the UI looks extremely simple. You have all 72 nodes here, from AI to color to export, filter. You've also got a generator, input, keyer, mask, and also transform. And all of this simply covers literally 99.9% of what you need an image editor to do. And to get started, we're simply going to drag in an image right here. And once we click on the node, you get to see the preview right here. So this is where you do all of your node stuff. And this is where you see the preview. Everything that you have to work with in terms of parameter shows up right here. From here, you can control how much stuff that you like to work with. So first things first, I'm going to throw in a level. So let's go ahead and throw in a simple level, possibly make this a little bit darker. And with that, we can also throw in some stuff. So maybe you like to do some color stuff. You can simply drag in a color balance and drop that right in there. And from here, you can do the whole color balancing depending on what you like to do. So you can do color balancing if you want. And for those who might be thinking, what about masking? You know, we might like to mask or use brushes. Of course, there are nodes for that. So we can simply right click and I can get a simple paint. So we can either do in paint, a mask paint. Once we click in and get that paint in there, we can come through, increase the brush size if we want, play with the hardness, reduce that if we want, and we can come through and paint stuff. At the same time, if you like to simply erase these things, you can. So I can increase the brush size, erase this if we choose. And of course, with the open bracket, you can also increase the brush size and use that to erase this. If you work with a pen, this is going to be marvelous. You can also choose the color that you want and select the paint tool to paint whatever you want from there. We can also use the color picker to select different kinds of colors. And from here is where we have our clone stamp tool. So with the clone stamp tool, you can also stamp stuff just like you could do in Photoshop. So if we hold down Alt and click on any part, we can go to somewhere else and stamp it. And all of these are happening within one node. So you can go back and come forward. So again, depending on what you want to do, you can do all of that. And that is the paint node. So if we go all the way up and we get, say, for example, a mask, we've got different kinds of mask. We can start off with a paint mask. So with a paint mask, what we like to do is just to paint certain areas. Maybe for this example, we might want to paint just the trousers or, or the pants. So once we make this selection like so, we can, let's reduce that brush a little bit. We can go ahead and bring in another masking tool. So we can type in the word mask and refine this mask if we choose. So we can have that mask right there. And I can choose to just erode or dilate this a little bit and feather it out a little bit like so. And now that we have this mask, if we like to make any adjustment to our image, say for example, with this particular model, we might want to change the color to something else, we can. So we can either get a color overlay, a color remap, or we can get a HSB. And so with the HSB, we can go ahead and throw in that mask right there. And I can simply drag in the image from here and connect that to this other image. And of course, because the HSB already has its parameters, we can do a simple hue shift. So we can change the hue of our pants depending on what we want. Again, we can always go back to our mask and we can feather this up or feather this down. And so you might also notice that we have a tiny preview of what's going on from here. So if we move this all the way in, I'll move this all the way out. I'm going to actually take a look at it and see. The amount of time it takes for each node to cook gets to be seen here. And it is pretty interesting. With this here, we also have more mask type that you might want to see. So if we simply go over to the mask section, we can also get a Roto. So Roto mask could be nice as well. So I'm just going to connect this image right there. And with the Roto mask, it gives you a pen. Of course, if you like to do a rectangular select, you can simply just go ahead and do a rectangular select if you choose. If you like to use an ellipse, you can also go ahead and use an ellipse if you want. Or maybe if you want to use a simple pen, you can do that. We can choose to mask certain areas. Once we have this in and have this locked in, you'd notice that we have our masking. So once we click, we have that mask sorted out, and we can also go ahead and do stuff with it. Again, we can just go in and connect this to our refine, and you can see what we have there. And of course, we can have that like so. We can make those modifications that we want and possibly just push this in and out. And if we like to load in or possibly drive the overall image based off something else, we can. Remember earlier when we started, we threw in, a level or something like that. We can also do some more stuff in that regards. If we like to play with the exposure, we can throw in that exposure and drive that by this mask again. And so only the pants gets to be exposed, or, only the pants gets whatever effect that this would be coming with. And speaking about effect, there are certain generators and filter tools that exist right here. For example, if you like to blur stuff, we can actually go ahead and drag in the blur, and I can connect this blur right over here, and we're blurring the entire image. If we like to blur only the pants, of course, we can also do that by dragging this mask and connecting that right there. So it is a pretty interesting tool in terms of proceduralism when you're editing images. If you're thinking about chroma keying, of course, there is a chroma key. So you can also do a simple quick chroma keying. You notice we've got the green. It simply cuts that out pretty quickly. If you're also thinking about doing some transform, we've got some transform stuff as well. So you can actually go ahead and transform this however you want. It gives you this whole gizmo thing, so you can transform this however you want. If you're thinking about, scaling these up and down, depending on what you're trying to do, this allows you to do all of that. Interestingly, we also have some nice cool stuff. Say for example, you like to use the magic wand, of course you can. So I can simply just go ahead and drop in the magic wand right here. And this is where the power of proceduralism actually beats a lot of things. So we could say that, for example, we just want to magic wand the hands, and we can simply just have that. And this is just the part where magic wanding, if that is a term, and I can just go ahead and magic wand just that part. And again, we can add another one by simply clicking on add point, and the next point which I would like to magic wand would be this part. And again, I can just simply drop that down and position this right here. And of course, you can see that with one node, we can start doing more stuff. We also have some more masking tools like the color range. For example, if you're trying to select a specific color range within the transform, we also have some interesting stuff. For example, if you're thinking about cropping, we can go ahead and crop our image. For those who might want to do some mirroring, of course, you can throw in a mirror tool, which you can use to do that mirroring. You might want to spherize your image, and you can go ahead and throw that in. And this is going to add some sort of spherical stuff, so we can use that to create some nice looking feel. Maybe there are certain parts of your image you like them to bump up or go down. You can use this to do all of that nice cool stuff. In terms of padding, you also have transform tools that you can use to pad your image, and you can use this to do some auto padding. Something else which is also pretty interesting is for those who are thinking about arranging images, there's also a node for that. So you can use it to arrange your images vertically or horizontally. So depending on the number of images that you like to arrange prior to exporting, you can also use this to do that. This also offers a gap feature which you can use to specify a gap distance between the images you're arranging. Now with that said, let's talk about some other things that would be super useful for game developers and designers. So if you're a game designer, in certain cases, you might want to upscale an image. And for you to do that, you would need to work with an AI upscaling tool, which currently exists here. So with that, we're simply just going to load in the AI upscaler. And in this case, we do have a 236 by 236 image, which doesn't quite cut the mark for us. Of course, you do have some sharpening tools, so we can say we would like to sharpen this, and this is going to sharpen the image, but it's not necessarily upscaling it now, is it? We can also say we would like to use a detail enhance, which might be pretty cool, and for the most part, these might do the job for us. And if this simply works for you, of course, you can go ahead and get a normal map and drive this, which you can now use for your game engine. And you can see how quickly this actually makes that happen. And of course, for the AI upscaling, once you have this selected, you can simply go ahead and select from any of the models. Now, the version 2 model, which has to do with photos, will possibly be our best bet. And for that, this is going to need 1 credit. We'll talk about the credit in a bit. So with this here, we can just simply click on upscale. Depending on the size of the image, this is going to take some time to generate it. In this case, this actually cooked everything in 5.1 seconds. And this is pretty interesting. Of course, if you'd like to upscale this even more, we can do a copy and paste. And once we hit the upscale, you would notice that this might take a bit more longer than this one. Reason being is that the second one will be upscaled 4 times the size of the first one. Another feature which you'd also find here is the AI remove background, which is pretty much what it does. It removes the background of images. One other thing which is also here that has to do with AI is the AI text to image. In this case, we could say we would like to generate a stylized orb. So we could say we'd like to, generate a stylized orb, and we can simply select any of these models that exist and we can click on generate. Now, because we're simply using the first one, this automatically generates that. So let's go ahead and say a stylized spherical orb, maybe be a bit more detailed, and possibly we could use nano banana, or we could use this other one. And I'm just simply going to hit that button one more time, and this is going to process and generate another one for us. In this case, we're simply comfortable with this one and we can do stuff with it. Now, one of the things that you might want to do if you're working with filters is possibly you like to make a pixelated version. Because you can simply just go ahead and throw that in, and now you have a pixelated version which you can control. And if you're also thinking about making some, outline, in painting, all that stuff, you do have all of this right here. You might also want to go through and do a seamless blend. And the seamless blend just simply blends your stuff seamlessly, and you can simply do a crossfade mode just to get that nice blend in between so you don't have those seams cutting through your texture, and that will be super useful. And if you like to dictate the edge of an image, you can use the edge dictate node to do that. And of course, if you like to work with emboss, you can bring in the emboss, connect that node right there, and you can increase the size, depending on what you want. So if we like to make this a bit more embossed, we can also increase the strength of the emboss and work with it. Now, in some cases, you might want to create variations of the image that you're working with. And this is where the palette node comes in. So within the palette node, we can simply just go ahead and drag in a palette, and we can create various slots. And once we have this ready, if we like to create variation of this particular image, what we can do is to drag out our palette remap, and we can connect our image to the image of the palette remap and connect the palette to our simple palette. And that way, you'd now see that we have variations of this image. We can choose to have this selected and play with the hue tolerance. So maybe we would like to have a hue tolerance of maybe this much and feather it out a bit. Of course, we can. And if we simply go ahead and click on all, you can see the variations of what we have. The same thing can be done with various images as well. So if we simply bring in another image and we choose to drag that in and connect it right here, you'd also notice that we now have variation of this particular image too. We can also go ahead and bring in one more just for good measures, and we can also connect that right here. And you would also notice that we have variations of that particular image as well. Now, in some cases, you might want to generate variations, but you're not so sure about what colors to use. And the good thing is you can actually generate your palette based off an image. So in this case that we have the raccoon in here, we can choose to generate our palette from image. If we bring in the palette from image node, we can connect the image right here, and we can use that to drive the palette that generates all the variations for us. And with this palette node, you can increase the number of colors that you like to see and ask it to attempt finding out even more stuff. So this is more like the seeding, and you can sort these by hue, luminance, saturation, and also frequency. And once we have this selected now, you notice that we've got different variations. And of course, we can simply go in and bring this down and also proceed to export all of this out. So if we go in, we can either export this as a batch file, which is going to export this individually, or we can choose to export this as a sprite. So if you like to generate sprite sheets, you can also go ahead and generate sprite sheets from there. Other than this, you also have some other interesting node that has to do with the posterize, the quantize, invert, which is also pretty nice if you just want to invert a node. So that is also pretty cool. If you like to add text, you can also go in and drop in a text. If you like to work with patterns, there's a couple of cool patterns right here, from checkers to stripe all the way to dots. hex, and also bricks. And these are fully procedural because you can actually go in and play with them and generate good stuff. In terms of shapes, you also have some cool shapes that you can work with. And for those who are thinking about working with gradients, there is also a nice cool gradient tool that you can also play with as well. And of course, for noise, we also have some cool noise tools as well, which are pretty amazing. You can select whatever size that you want, and you can select the noise type that you want and use that to drive cool stuff. And of course, with all of these, you can simply go ahead and mix stuff up, blend stuff up, work with most of the nodes that currently exist to fine-tune your images and create nice looking textures that you can use for your game engines and also for your animations. And for the most part, while working with this, just simply have fun. Is a fun and interesting tool that gives you all of these possibilities, and this is currently available for free. As much as we know, there is no price tag once this gets published. And speaking about this getting published, there's a couple of cool things that you can also read up in terms of the features that exist here. We've got the notes, as there's a sticky notes feature which is also available, so you can add a sticky notes and say or define stuff. They've also got some grouping. Maybe you like to group stuff as well. You can also go ahead and do a Ctrl-G and group stuff if you like to group stuff. If you like to bypass a simple node, you can actually have that node selected, tap D on the keyboard to bypass it, or you can right click and just simply bypass. If you like to save any node as PNG, you can right click and save to PNG. Into any of these nodes that you've made, you can also go ahead and rename them if you want. The only thing that I think you might be purchasing once this is available is the AI credits that you get to use. So for that, if we simply go back to the website and go all the way down, I think there's a place where they specified it. So there are AI credits that you get to use, as this is going to be about 350 AI credits, which you can use to do up to 1,750 generations. And this is for the AI side. I believe other than that, this is totally free, but for the AI credits, these are the AI credits that you might have to pay for if eventually you choose to use AI. Outside that, this is currently being said to be a desktop app for Windows and Mac, which is free to use and no account is needed for you to get started with it. So this is it. For those who like to try out the beta, you can simply go over to Albert Emboss's Twitter, where you'll be able to request for the beta. And I'd like to know what you guys think about this one in the comment section. And until I see you guys in the next one, peace.